Hello, it's Chris. We're going to do a vlog first for a while. This is going to be an off the cuff one, as I sometimes do. It's going to be no editing, none of the things that you probably should do on a modern day YouTube channel, which I don't do because I just think it's more organic if I actually just communicate how I would do ideas and thoughts, reflections in a naturalistic way instead of editing, cutting the slightest few nanoseconds of dead space. I don't know, maybe it's maybe I'm being condescending even by mentioning that, but anyway, it's a boring point, so I'm not going to labour it. This is a channel mostly to do with philosophy, just journals, really, to be honest, these days. It's been all sorts of things over the years, like a bit of creative, mad projects. It was a gaming channel for a long time, I do that on Nah Nerd now. My Nah Nerd channel, which is my main dev channel. Anyway, I thought I'd just talk today about something I'm definitely experiencing at the minute, personally. Just get it all off my chest and try and make sense of some of it. So, I think in some respects, I have what's commonly known as gifted child syndrome, which essentially is if you're in a family, you're either an only child or you're the first child. Often it's the first child. Or you're just a gifted child. Like you've got children in your family and you have talents, or you're exceptional in certain areas, whether it be in terms of like intellect, whether it be of like maybe math is a common one, maths, English, creative writing, whatever, art as well, obviously. And you, a lot of the time, in this sort of cliche, the gifted child syndrome is basically you get older and you get much more cynical and hard towards life the older you get, and that you lose that sensitivity maybe in some respects, and that sense of joy that you maybe once, pure joy that you once may have encountered during what people would call creative thought, creative expression, right? And you become a sort of burnt out adult. Now, I've encountered this in varying degrees. At the minute, it's definitely a peak point now, because I've basically, I'm 37, so I'm approaching middle age. I've been living independently for many, many years. I was abroad for a while. I was in a relationship for a while, a long-term relationship, and I had like some sort of independence. But now that's been changed, because after years of, like I said, doing my artwork, doing my computer work, the programming, doing bits of writing, bits of all sorts of creative work, I'm back at my folks, which I cannot deny feels shite, to be honest. I'm 37, I'm approaching 40, I don't have any property, I don't have any car, I don't have any real assets, but yeah, I'm literally standing next to 50 large paintings I've done 18 albums, some of which are shit obviously, but like some of which are half decent, which are on Spotify and yada yada, Broken God, if you want to look at all that stuff. I've helped, collaborated with tons of artists, I've worked on different projects, I've been a director of an artist studios for 2 years, I've written 6 books, I've programmed, I think I've released 10 games, some of which are on like Android, so like a mass platform, varying degrees of quality, right? But yeah, I've released stuff, I've done stuff, I've put a lot of effort into things. Just this last year, I've released 3 open source libraries for A-Frame. I've been constantly doing content for YouTube videos. Nah Nerd, I've released hundreds of hours of footage of tutorials for free, whilst asking for donations also, which are for free, which have helped probably hundreds of people to learn about bits and bobs of JavaScript, React Dev, data visualization. But yet here I am age of 37, I won't go into my personal financial business, but I'm really struggling at the minute. This isn't, like I say, it's not a begging video, it's just more of a general, what the hell? And I think it does feel, I think a lot of people in the same position as I find myself in as well. And I'm lucky, like I'm even lucky because I at least have somewhere to stay. Yeah, I might not have, a house or like a mortgage or anything, but at the end of the day, those can be just, it's not the time at the minute for that. But, and they are just basically I mean, I think a lot in the UK, in a lot of ways, we do overvalue things like owning our own property. Europeans tend to be less bothered by such things. But yeah, it's a weird time, and it definitely feels. I'd definitely say it feels frustrating. Like your sense of self just becomes like, in a lot of ways, I feel like I'm struggling. Like, why do I even bother to do all this hard work, which I've been doing for years and years and years? And like some of the painting has been going okay. Like I've sold some 4 paintings recently, but I'm not selling for much because, like, in some respects, I think I'm very silly. Like I don't play monetary games, and I think the reality of money is, well, it doesn't really exist. It's not really a thing. It's a construct of decades and hundreds of years of banking systems, financial systems. I'm not being paranoid here. I'm not saying like it's Freemasons or whatever. I'm not that bollocks. But there are decades, hundreds of years of. It's all a big con, really. To be honest, money is just a big con. Money doesn't really exist in any fundamental value. It's just an abstract representation of value, really. The whole thing's rigged in a lot of ways. Now, obviously, if you are, I don't know, like a rational actor in what we exist in still, which is a capitalist free market system overall, in the UK anyway, certainly, then you do have to try and find your place in that pie, right? Take your part of the pie, contribute what you can to what you can, and draw from that pie as you can. But I don't think it's that simple anymore, really, to be honest. We're in a different age. And I think, to be honest, we're probably going to be moving into a age where potentially it will become more difficult and more, with the development of AI potentially, it's just going to be more, the money's going to be in lesser hands, maybe. It could also, if the technology is sufficiently open, it could also go the other way, but it could also create an environment of saturation, right, where everyone has access to the technology, everybody's doing it all the time, and the entire information space is flooded with digital art. It's already happening, really. AI artworks, AI films, and it just becomes a regurgitation of the same thing over and over again, completely lacking creativity. Completely just a remix of a remix of a remix. It's like Baudelaire art on steroids, made by artificial intelligence. I mean, I'm not sure I actually want to live in that world, because it just means that we've given up in terms of like human creativity, sparks of genius, sparks of actual innovation, that drive to keep on making something, driving the human drive, right, to make something new, which is a struggle. That is what it involves. It always involves any kind of creativity, which as any creative person will know, you are not going to succeed straight away. Especially with something like painting, which like I've tried to pursue in my own way for many years, and like 50% of the time I've just think that's terrible. And like especially for when you're doing a body of work with painting, for example, a ton of the paintings will just fail, but they are a stepping stone to something which will then come into fruition, as it were. And yeah, you could say like AI, Midjourney, and I've been using Midjourney myself, but you could say there is also that process. You have to do prompts, but it's a very different process, and it's obviously you can steal prompts from other people. I mean, there are certain positive aspects to this whole thing, like remix culture, and yeah, there's certain good parts to it, but definitely on the negative side, people are just it could potentially just open up such a can of worms. I've already sort of made a lot of these points, so I don't want to regurgitating them, but that is my main worry of it all, really. In terms of like the creative world, is that everyone's going to become ridiculously unoriginal. Now, you can't really avoid unoriginality at some level. If you're an artist, it takes time to even produce anything that has you in it. If you look at many artists, visual artists' careers, they start off, someone like Ashil Gorky, for example, wonderfully original abstract painter, organic sort of expressionist, abstract expressionist paintings based on landscapes and dreamscapes. But he started off like copying Picasso, basically copying Cézanne style. He didn't emerge just out, immediately as an original painter. I suppose so-called naive or outsider artists potentially, but again, these distinctions are ridiculous. What's a good example? What's his name? Darjo, is it? It's a well-known outsider artist. Anyway, the guy did the mythological sort of like fairy figures of penises and stuff. I can't remember what his name is, but like people say it's like a symbolic original world or whatever. Anyway, I'm getting off on one there. So yeah, I still do believe that. I mean, what I'm saying is basically originality in art. People could say it's authentic originality comes from a mysterious place. It probably does, but it also does involve a lot of work. It's not like I don't know. Picasso woke up one morning and just shat out Guernica or the L'Avion des Morts, how you pronounce that, I can't remember. The one of the prostitutes in the Cubism style, which his friends hated actually immediately. But that doesn't happen in real life. It takes years and years and years and years and years of hard work and basically just sacrificing tons of money usually for an artist. For a visual artist especially, you're going to be sacrificing time, money. You're going to be basically living on borderline starvation all the time, or borderline just like sort of poverty, abject poverty. Not abject poverty actually, that's complete bollocks. But a sort of on the borderline edge of that, right? And that's been my experience of pursuing an artistic life for like since my 20s, and I'm 37 now. But it's an up and down thing. Like I've been doing, when I get the programming jobs which are stable, I usually do those for a few months. Often the contractor work, so it's obviously just started off as that. I've done it full time as well for a bit, but I don't tend to stick around for like 5 years or something. It's just not how I really get, it's not, I don't want to settle into a role for like 5 years, hate it, and just hate my life and carry on doing it. Which does come with a trade-off, right? Which is more instability. So there is trade-offs. But then, so I've gone, basically the trend of my life in general has been pretty stable, good at a place, get some stability, do work, office work or dev work or whatever, and then make the time for my artwork and doing the creative work, and really make the time for it, which often comes at the sacrifice of making more friendships, more of a social life. But I mean, if you're serious about doing art, you will just do it, and then you just do it. It doesn't matter about. We obviously don't want to sacrifice your mental health to the altar of your artwork too. Look, I've made that mistake a few times, and that does make things worse. But yeah, basically, obviously, what I'm saying is period of stability, but then just periods where I just end up on welfare for one reason or the other. I have ended up in a horrible situation of mental health dropping a bit as well, or whether that's due to investing too much time in the artwork and less than the practical sides of life. It's probably a 50-50 thing, right? But being an artist is hard, basically. I mean, I don't think all artists struggle with this, especially visual artists. So visual artists are one of the lowest earners. Average earnings 12 grand a year, which is piss all. It's really nothing. People don't care as much about buying paintings. They will care even less now. They can just get a reproduction of anything, just on AI and just get it printed off. So it will be even more difficult now. So as to whether painting is dead, I don't think it is. I mean, if you know anything about painting, you'll know that an actual painting done in a painterly way with different styles and methods and everything else is completely different in execution from a flat image generated by Midjourney or whatever, which is of course impressive, and some of the imagery you can generate with this, I'm doing it myself, like I said, is incredible, but it's very different from a physical tangible painting by an actual painter who has studied for 20 years, maybe 10 decades, not 10 decades, but decades, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 30 years. Christ, there are many artists much older and more experienced than me who I'm still learning stuff from, who painters, who just like know everything about mediums, about methods, about all sorts of stuff, the history, the encyclopedia of it. And yeah, obviously now we have these basically generators that can scan that information. But again, is there any contextual way to put it in any context, any historical context, no, not really, I don't think. Anyway, bit of a ramble that. I call this gifted child and disappointed artist syndrome and AI, or we? I don't know. I think that's probably enough for that. I hope it's something interesting for anyone to chew on who comes across this. I don't think people generally find my videos. I think I'm perma-banned because I don't really cover like YouTube friendly subjects. I tend to just say what I think and I swear. So I mean, if you're bothered by that, then don't listen to it. I mean, how hard is it? Just turn it off. Anyway, but if you do like it, like and subscribe, obviously. I just talk how I do, and that's that. Yeah, if you have any thoughts, leave them below, and I'll respond back in with whatever I think, I suppose, really, in a bit.